Hello everyone, welcome to Court with Krissy and Linda. Here's a quick bench trial that involves a couple of crazy neighbors, and one of them has an excuse, the other not so much. You might wonder why Linda's here. They say the word cat once. The cat got startled. Damn straight the bitch is gonna get cooked. I hope you like it. Court with Krissy and Linda is now in session.
Next matter is 25 CRB 169, State of Ohio versus Mark Buffa. Mr. Buffa's President of Council, Mr. Proctor. Mr. Savage is here on behalf of the Law Director's Office. We're scheduled for trial. Charge of menacing today. Mr. Proctor, you wish to have a trial today?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Savage, would you like to make an opening statement?
Your Honor, the charge, we charge that Mark Buffa did on January 14th knowingly cause another one, Carrie Hyden Nelson, to believe that he would cause physical harm to her person or property. We believe that the testimony of the witnesses that day will amount to a finding of guilty.
Mr. Proctor?
Your Honor, the court's aware we did have a competency evaluation done on this case. My client was found competent for trial purposes, but the evaluation did find that he's likely to have severe mental illness due to a brain injury. But I just wanted to remind the court that it's not illegal to have a mental illness. The state has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt the facts alleged in the complaint, being that he knowingly caused another to believe that the offender would cause physical harm to that person or their family. It's not illegal to have mental health issues, but we're just asking the court to focus in on what's alleged in the complaint and whether the state proves that beyond a reasonable doubt.
Thank you. May I call your first witness?
The state calls Blake Talbot.
Blake, right up here, please.
Thank you.
May proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Talbot. First, can you tell us who you're employed with?
I work for the management company Drucker and Falk. Drucker and Falk is responsible for managing the property of Cumberland Links.
Okay. And were you on that property on January 14th, 2025?
Yes.
Okay. And what were you doing that day?
I was managing the property. I was still new to the position at that point. Drucker and Falk assumed that property in January 1st, so with the turn of the new year. So I was still within my first 2 weeks on site there, so still kind of getting the lay of the land.
Do your duties in that role include helping tenants?
Yeah. At that point, we were doing a lot of tenant interfacing. With the switch in management, there was also a switch in payment systems, switch in other policies. So there was a lot of tenant-facing interaction still at that point.
And do any of those involve tenant concerns with their safety?
Yes.
And was there did an incident concerning tenant safety take place on January 14th of this year?
It did, yes.
And do you recall how you were first made aware of this?
Yeah, I brought with us a copy of the internal incident report that we fill out. So I have a couple. From that day. One that would have been filled out by my colleague, Carrie O'Callahan, and one that was filled out by a resident, Carrie Hyden Nelson. Miss Nelson came into our office in a bit of a panic after Mr. Buffa had made remarks to her from his window.
Okay. Were you familiar with Mr. Buffa otherwise?
Yes, we had already had a couple incidents already.
Within the couple of weeks since you'd started working there?
Yes.
After you were made aware of the incident, what action did you take?
We called the police. I initiated the filing of these incident reports. and, locked the office door, made sure that Miss Hayden Nelson was safe.
And you had said that when she came in, she was, what was the word that you used to describe her condition?
I would say flustered.
Flustered?
Yeah, in distress.
Did she say anything to that effect? Did she?
It took her a few moments to catch her breath and kind of be able to tell us what was going on. Based on the direction from which she came, I had an assumption of what might be going on.
Okay. And did she appear to be frightened to be?
Yes, she did.
And did you have, once you said you called the police?
Correct.
And they arrived shortly thereafter?
They did.
And did you have any further involvement with the?
Mostly from a paperwork perspective. At that point, at the advice of my colleague Carrie O'Callahan, we decided to serve Mr. Buffa with a 3-day notice the following day. We decided that as a potential threat to safety on the property, and based on the interactions that we had already had, that he no longer should reside on the property.
And finally, could you just sort of generally describe the property? It's a subdivision, is that correct?
It's a multifamily property. We have a mix of buildings. We have single-story ranch-style homes, and we have 2-story garden-style homes as well. So those 2-story homes, there's 7 of those buildings. They each house 16 units, and I don't recall the exact amount of ranch-style homes, but they each house 4 units.
Do you remember what type of building it was that Mr. Buffa lived in?
Mr. Buffa resided at, which is a ranch-style home.
Okay. And that subdivision there is in Licking County, Ohio, correct?
Correct, yes.
And is Mr. Buffa in the courtroom today?
He is.
Can you identify him?
He's seated there at the defendant's table.
May the record show the witness has identified the defendant.
So,
Nothing further.
Mr. Proctor?
Going back to January 14th of this year, that's the date that this lady came into your office, flustered as you described. Did you talk to Mr. Buffa that day?
No, based on our previous run-ins,
Okay, you said no. That's
Okay.
No. And then some point after that, I'm thinking it's a different day, you served him with a 3-day notice to leave, right? Was that day or a different day?
That notice is dated.
You're looking at something to refresh your recollection.
That notice is dated 1/15/2025.
For the next day, right? Did you talk to Mr. Buffa before you gave him 3-day notice to leave?
No.
Was the notice to leave based on a violation of the lease?
It was based on the violation of the lease. There's a clause in there affecting how you relate with other tenants, and also his aggressive behavior in my office on January 13th.
So it wasn't necessarily due to the alleged incident on January 14th. There was other things that you saw a reason to do.
We had multiple occasions.
So
Yes.
it wasn't for non-payment of rent then?
It was not for non-payment of rent.
It was due to multiple issues.
Correct.
And the complaint from the other resident was the last straw, so to speak.
Correct.
Okay. You mentioned that he's a ranch-style home. Are these homes or these apartments, or what exactly are they?
They are marketed as a ranch-style apartment home.
Are they butt next to each other?
There are 4 units within one of those ranch-style buildings.
How close is Mr. Buffa's unit to the victims, the alleged victims?
I don't, 100 yards, maybe. But he
They're
was,
not right next to each other?
he was located near where the nearest parking to that unit was.
All right, that's all.
Mr. Savage.
Nothing further.
Okay, you may step down. Thank you. You may call your next witness.
State calls Carrie Hyden Nelson. Thank you, ma'am. Is this your first time testifying in the courtroom?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being here with us today. So this is stemming out of events that occurred on January 14th, 2025.
Yes.
Do you recall that date?
Like I do recall, I recall like parts of it. I don't remember everything entirely. But yeah.
So I believe what began the incident that occurred on that day?
Okay, so I was going out into my daughter's car. So my daughter's car is parked like, it was parked kind of like right in front of his place. And as I was in her car, he was out and I heard him yell something foul, like at me, and like at this point.
How far is this parking lot from your place at the time?
Oh Lord. Oh golly, it's hard to judge.
Approximately.
Maybe 10 feet, maybe 10, 20. I mean, it was really like there were parking spaces here, and then his apartment was right here. So it was kind of like where you park, you could walk out.
The distance from the parking space to his residence?
Yes.
Okay. And how far is it from there to your residence?
So from there to my residence, about the same distance, well, maybe a little tiny bit further. That was the only place that we could park because there weren't parking spots in front of us available.
Yeah. Okay. And so you were outside of the car at that parking
Yes.
spot? Okay. And you heard his voice?
Yeah, he came out and he was like just doing weird things, talking to himself. Then I heard,
He came out of his
out of his
building?
own
Yeah.
place, yeah. And he was just not acting right, which kind of alarmed me. I'm like, well, I'm just going to keep going on about my business. Then I heard him like call me, I heard bitch or a slur. And I said, excuse me? And then that's when it just escalated from there. He started yelling, just yelling things that didn't make sense. It put it scared me, but at the same time, like, I want to stand up for myself.
Can you describe, you were describing that his behavior didn't make sense. What were you seeing?
He just was saying things that didn't even, it just was weird. Okay, so that day he went as far as he grabbed his flag. That I particularly remember. He grabbed the flag. He has a flag attached to his apartment. And he grabbed it off of the hanger that it was on and just starts marching around with it. And I'm like, this is alarming. And the whole time he's like talking to himself. But like once him and I got into an argument, it was just on. Like there was just screaming from his end. And so, yes, I matched the volume because I'm like, I can't believe this. This is not my first encounter with his verbal violence.
The flag you mentioned, was that just a loose flag? Was that flag attached to a pole?
It was attached to a pole, and then you like can attach it to your home.
Yeah.
Like so he was able to like pick it up and take it off the handle.
And once he detached it, so he was
Yeah,
holding
he's
the
just
pole?
walking around and he wouldn't stop. And at that point, that's my daughter's boyfriend come out he came out and got me just to stop it. And then we went into the office to report what had happened.
So now you mentioned that there had been prior incidents between the two of you specifically,
Yes.
and did those contribute to how you were perceiving the situation on that day?
What do you mean? I mean, those were separate events. It had nothing to do with that day. That day, I was in the car, and he walks right on out of his apartment and starts this bizarre talking to himself, walking around, and then zeroes in on me, and I hear slurs coming my way at me. And I'm not going to just stand there and let you do that. Granted, like, I should have just went into the office, but in the heat of the moment,
So how did you feel in the heat of the moment?
oh my God, like, I'm scared. He terrified me, but at the same time, you have to stand up for yourself. But so it just was I didn't want this. I didn't ask for this. I just wanted to handle business in my daughter's car, whatever I was doing, and go back in. I didn't want to deal with him. Nobody does.
And at what point did you decide that you had to go to the office to get
So
further out?
So my daughter's boyfriend came out, got me, took me inside. I cooled off, and we went over, like, they could hear his yelling from inside our apartment. And that's what prompted her boyfriend to come out and get me. I cooled off, we went to the office, and we told them what had happened. But it's frustrating when, like, I'm not the only one he's targeting. He's done this to everyone around the neighborhood. Everyone. People are scared of him. I'm scared of him.
And do you remember any other of the specific comments that were made to you on that day?
No, just, you're a bitch, and, just, I don't remember anything that stood out, but everything else, his words didn't make sense. He just was talking about stuff that made no sense.
Would it refresh your memory if you reviewed the property incident report that you wrote out on the day?
It might, yes, it might. Yeah, that probably would. Okay. Oh, okay, yes. Okay. Yes, that is all correct. So that does refresh my memory. Yeah, that's,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, let's wait for a question, Miss.
If I can just take this back to you first.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Let me see that one. Okay, to take a picture of the damage that happened. Yeah. Okay, now I know why. Yep.
All right, so to reiterate, the question was, do you remember any other specific comments that he made to you in the course of this interaction?
Yeah, he made that comment about I see those girls you're bringing over to your house, and I'm very confused. I'm like, what is he talking about? And then he mentioned a black girl, and it upset me because it insinuated, to me, it felt like he was trying to insinuate something terrible. That's never happened. And if any young girls do come to my house, they come over for my daughter. They're her friends.
And was there any comments that you perceived as a physical threat?
I don't remember him saying anything threatening, but I was still scared.
Okay.
He's very scary. He's unpredictable.
Okay. All right, nothing further.
Mr. Proctor.
All right, going back to January 14th, you say that you walked over to, I think it was your daughter's car,
Correct.
which was parked in front of his place.
Correct. Yeah, because
And it was how many feet from his front door? Or the front of his place, I should say?
guesstimation anywhere from 10 to 20.
Was it as far away, if I'm standing here, I mean, is it as far away as I am to you?
So it would
Or was it
be,
farther than that?
it would be like from here, probably to that first bench right there behind
To
you.
the first row right there?
Yeah.
Where this lady's sitting, maybe?
Yeah, right,
Okay.
yeah, yep, right about to maybe, yeah.
All right, so he comes out and he's talking to himself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which you thought was strange, but wasn't any threats towards you. He's just talking to himself. Is that accurate as to what you testified to? I'm just talking about.
I mean, that's what he did at
He comes
first.
out of his home, he's talking to himself.
Yeah, at first, that's what he did.
And then he said bitch or something like that, right?
Yeah, he called me he called me a bitch. That's what I understood it to be. He called
Do
me
you
a
know whether
bitch.
He's talking to himself. Is that directed to you, or is that just he's talking to himself?
Well, he was looking, even like when he came outside, he was also like looking in my direction frequently. So I mean, to me, I take that as you're calling me a bitch. Who else is out there to call that?
But you can't read his mind, so you don't know whether it's directed towards you.
I can't read no, I can't read it. Who can?
And he's walking back and forth. Is that what you said?
He was
While he's
just,
talking?
he was walking around in his yard like back and forth and then he got into cussing after he said bitch.
And he picks up a flag.
Yeah, then during all of this, he
Okay, so
picks his
now
flag up
something
and starts
that
kind of marching
he's-
around in his yard.
He's as far away as the first row there. Could you just demonstrate to the court when he picked up the flag? Just, if you can come up front here, just show us what he was doing.
So, let's just say.
We're not near mics, so just show us what you're doing.
So he grabbed it off of his house and just was kind of walking back and forth, just weird like, and then rambling on and talking, and then cussing, and it was a very bizarre.
But not approaching towards, if you're
Well,
here.
he stayed in his yard as he's
If
cussing
you're
at
over
me.
here, he's not coming towards you, he's going back.
Well, he's walking closer, what I'm saying, he's moving closer to the sidewalk in his yard, but making sure to stay on his property.
Okay, so when he's going back and forth, he's talking too.
Right, and then after I hear,
But he's not saying anything to you particularly.
after he loudly yelled out bitch at me, yes, I assume that is very much directed at me. This
Okay.
is not our only
But you
encounter.
testified that none of the comments were particularly threatening to you. He's just swearing.
That
and
is
things like
terrifying. Would that not scare
I'm just
you
trying to
for
understand
somebody
what your
to
testimony
scream
was,
and be
that's all.
getting loud and then start all of a sudden they're directing their anger and they're cussing at you? You have no idea what's going on with them. Like, that's terrifying.
All right,
That is scary.
I'm just trying to understand what you said, that's all.
I'm sorry.
So what he said was, that you recall, was, I see you bring girls into your home and a black girl, something like that.
Yes, and that is not true. If any girls do come over, they're for my daughter, and that's rare.
But that wasn't a
Sometimes-
those are not threatening statements.
No, but his whole body language, like the screaming, the cussing, like, at what point is this gonna escalate to, now I'm gonna put hands on you?
But he never said.
Wouldn't you wonder that?
He never said that though, right?
No, he didn't say that, but wouldn't you wonder that? At what point will this escalate? We're already yelling and screaming. At what point is this gonna escalate to where he puts his hands on me?
You're worried about that, but yet you stayed there and you argued with him and you yelled back at him.
Because because I chose the wrong way to stand up for myself and try to defend myself, it's my fault.
The question was, you stood there and argued with him, yes? or no?
Because I chose to try to defend myself the wrong way, according to you, it is now my fault. He is the one that came out and started with all of this nonsense. Then he directed it at me. This
So
is
would it be
not
fair
my
to
fault.
say-
This is his fault, and he needs help.
If you could just answer the questions I'm asking, this will go easier. Would it be fair to say that his conduct was more in the line of a disorderly type of thing than it was a threatening type of thing?
No, it was threatening to me. I was terrified. I was scared, but
But
I'm
there
still
was-
going to try and defend myself, stand up for myself.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Mr. Savage.
I just wanted to ask you about a possible inconsistency in statements. In your prior statement, you had written, I heard a male's voice say, "Bitch, and you're going to get cooked."
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I forgot about that. Yes, that's what he said. Bitch, and you're going to get cooked. I knew. I'm like, okay, I'm the only one out here. What does that even mean? Why are you saying that? So now I'm going to, excuse me? Yes, he did say that.
Okay,
Bitch, you're going to get cooked. Exactly.
nothing further.
So would that not terrify you?
Mr. Proctor.
You're going to get cooked, could mean a number of things.
You're right, it could mean a number of things, but it certainly doesn't, it doesn't mean good. It's not anything good.
You thought that was a threat?
Well, what is he, I mean, that could mean, like you said, that could mean a lot of things, but it certainly isn't anything good coming out of his mouth. That could be a threat.
Okay, but he's just walking back and forth saying crazy
And-
things according to you. You don't know
and
what
then
anything
he
he says. Let me finish my question. You don't understand what anything he says really means, right? He's just saying crazy things. Isn't that what you testified?
Is that how a normal person would behave? That would alarm anyone. He needs
Because he's
help.
acting outside of what you think a normal person would behave. That to you is threatening.
Yes, it
Anybody
is.
that
Who
acts
goes,
outside of what a normal person would behave is a threat?
who comes outside when they see that you're out there and starts these antics and then amps it up, and then you're put in a position to where you're like, you need to stand up for yourself. Like, who comes out and does that? That is not normal. And to me, that's threatening. And yes, I felt
I have
fear,
no other question.
but I'm still going to try
There's no
to stand
question.
up for myself.
No question.
Nothing further for this witness, Your Honor.
Did the defendant move towards you ever, or was he looking at you when he was talking?
Yes, he was looking at me.
Did he come towards the vehicle or towards you?
He kept inching himself, like I said, in the yard. He kept coming closer and closer. there was a point where when the boyfriend came out, he did get onto like the sidewalk. I did forget about that. There was a point where he did, but at that point, my daughter's boyfriend already came and got me, and we went upstairs, and he went on about his whatever.
So he made some comments and you said something back to him?
After he said, bitch, you're gonna get cooked.
What did you say?
I said, excuse me? And then after that, I said, excuse me, you're talking to me? Then after that, it was a full-out explosion, just of screaming and yelling. Yes, I yelled back at him. Because like I said, I was trying to stand my ground, defend myself.
Okay. Thank you. You may step down.
Thank you.
May call your next witness.
State calls Deputy Adams.
You may proceed.
Thank you. Deputy Adams, who are you employed with?
The Licking County Sheriff's Office,
And how long have you been in that position?
2 years.
And do your duties include responding to complaints?
Yes,
And do you recall responding to such a complaint on January 14th, 2025?
yes.
And what happened when you got there?
On January 14, 2025, at approximately 11:53 hours, I was dispatched for disturbance. Upon arrival, I met with Blake and Carrie O'Callahan, Blake Talbot and Carrie O'Callahan, I'm sorry if I messed that up, who are the employee leasing agents of that property. Reported disturbance along with a Carrie Hayden Nelson, who is, when I got there, was visually distraught and tearing up in her eyes, and described the incident as what you just heard. It sounded like the incident from her stemmed over a car door, her taking pictures of her car, and her repeatedly opening and closing doors, which Mark Buffa later said it irritated him, and later came outside and confirmed holding the flag and waving it and stuff.
You spoke to Mr. Buffa after the incident?
I did, yes.
And so, did you first respond, where did you first respond to? You said to the office?
Leasing office.
Okay.
Spoke with the person who called us there in the first place and got their information of what was going on
And after that, where did you meet Mr. Buffa?
at his residence.
And so you spoke to him about the incident that had just occurred?
Yes.
And what do you recall him saying?
Mr. Buffa, when I got there, he knew why I was there, and he basically appeared visibly upset. Basically said what I just told you. He was upset about the lady across the way, opening, closing her car door and making noise. It's where he yelled at her through the screen, later came out, taking the flag off the porch, and waving the flag.
So did he say, did he do those things in order to get her to stop doing what was bothering him?
No, he didn't. It basically, any encounter I had with Mr. Buffa, whether it be that day or others, didn't make much sense. There was no clear-cut path of what he was trying to explain, or how he's explaining it.
And were you wearing a body cam on that day?
I was.
And how do you activate that?
It was activated.
It was activated?
Yes.
At this time, I'd like to show State's Exhibit 1. And can you tell me what we see on the screen here?
That is Mr. Buffa's front door.
What's going on? What happened? What's going on today?
Did you get into yeah. Out there.
I was
was looking outside and I opened my door. I'm throwing my trash out, getting rid. Oh, they've been through everything. All the good ones are gone. Throwing my trash out. I've been up, but I have a concussion. I only sleep 4 every 16 hours. No matter what. Medicine doesn't matter. I see this, bang, bang, boom, bam. I went, oh my gosh, I walked around the corner. I'm looking over the bush, I'm short, look over my bush, my olive, and all my birds go, and man, she's cooked. And she heard me. She's screaming, she tossed that car. I don't know why. She went the fuck off. She says I'm a lunatic, everybody hates me, I did this, I did that. And listen, I don't know anybody, I don't get to talk to anybody because I'm isolated, because my old lady left, my neighbors screw me, the guys are breaking in and getting stuff every time.
What did he just say about the moments leading up to the altercation?
Her slamming the door,
Yeah,
outside making noise.
yeah. And then, what did he indicate had happened after that?
As far as stuff going missing, going to people in his house. And
No,
Which-
in the immediate incident in question after the door slamming, that he had gone outside, that was your understanding?
Yes,
And that was when the altercation occurred?
yes.
Okay. And the person that you spoke to on that video that referred to that altercation, are they in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Can you identify them?
Mark Buffa sitting at the defense table.
May the record show the witness has identified the defendant.
Yeah.
And the location that you responded to, is that within the city of Newark, Licking County, Ohio?
It's Edna Township, Licking County, Ohio.
My apologies. Edna Township, Licking County, Ohio is where it's located?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Nothing further.
Mr. Proctor.
In your position as a deputy, would it be fair to say that you deal with people in the public that at least we don't know what their diagnosis is, but at least appears that they may have some sort of mental illness or mental health issues?
Appears, yes.
That's a common thing for you, right? That
Yes.
you deal with that.
Appearance, yes.
Okay. And so when you're dealing with Mr. Buffa, did you reach that type of conclusion that he appears that he's might have some mental health issues?
Yes,
And you've dealt with him in the past before January 14th?
yes.
Did he threaten you on January 14th?
Me? No.
Did you see him threaten anybody on January 14th?
I did not see him visually, anyone on January 14th, visually threaten anyone on the 14th of January.
So your knowledge of what happened on January 14th was from your discussion with Ms. Nelson and with the property manager, Mr. Talbot?
That is correct.
And your discussion with Mr. Buffa, he did not tell you that he threatened anybody. Is that accurate?
No, he did not.
He said some things that didn't make a whole lot of sense.
That is correct.
But he didn't say anything about threatening anybody, correct?
Correct.
That's all.
Mr. Savage.
Nothing further.
You may step down. With our next witness.
State would rest, subject to the admission of the video.
Any objection to the video, Mr. Proctor?
The video is the only thing you're asking?
Yeah.
No objection.
Okay. I'll make Exhibit 1. Mr. Proctor?
Can I have a moment?
Yeah.
Call Mark Buffa.
Right up here to the witness stand, please.
May proceed.
Before I ask you about the incident, I want to get some just background information for the record. Do you have can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Did you have some kind of injury to your head that affects your behavior?
I'd like to think it doesn't, but yes, sir, at 9/11/23, I fell at work, and I'm in an ongoing situation with that.
Where were you working?
Limited Corporation of Bath and Body Works, Building 3.
And what was your job there?
Maintenance building engineer.
Okay. Now, if you have any difficulty understanding my questions, just feel free to ask or just take your time to answer questions, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's go to January 14th of this year. Were you feeling okay that day?
I believe so, sir.
Do you have episodes because of your injury that some days are better than others?
Absolutely.
Was that a day that was maybe not quite so good, or was it an average, or how do you rate it?
It was 6 months after a complete reverse shoulder, a head injury, concussion, broken upper neck, spine, and back, and some other problems.
There was a brain injury too, I think you said, right?
Yes, with a concussion and an actual fracture of the skull. Yeah, yes.
But other than physically, thank you for giving me that information, but mentally, you have up and down days, is that correct?
I would say so, like other folks, yes.
January 14th, mentally, was an up day, down day, how were you feeling that day in terms of your mental state?
I was up and I was trying to do things and keep my body moving because I got to get healthy.
At one point, you went outside of your home at 101. You recall that?
Yes, sir.
And what was the reason you went outside?
Because I heard loud noises outside.
What kind of loud noises?
Loud enough to go into the building. They were like boom, boom, and slam.
The officer described that as a door closing, things like that. Is that what?
Yeah, the parking spots across from me, there's like 9 parking spots, and they're across in front of my apartment. My apartment faced the parking lot.
Okay, so when you went outside, what did you do?
I had to step around my bushes and look where my tree was and see. And there was a lady going through her car. And the doors were
Were you
open.
upset? Were you?
No,
How were you feeling?
like I do now.
The lady described you talking to yourself. Is that accurate?
I take advantage of the ability to speak to myself sometimes. Yes, sir.
Okay. And were you saying anything in terms of foul language or anything like that?
Nothing like that. I don't recall anything like that.
Did you yell at her at any point?
No, I couldn't.
Before she said anything to you?
No.
Did you call her a bitch or
No.
a whore?
No.
Did you say you're going to get cooked?
No.
Did you ever say that on that day?
No.
Okay. Did you take the flag down?
Yes.
Why did you do that?
I didn't take the flag down. I unscrewed it up off the connector that I installed and started, because I couldn't say nothing. Because I can't answer sometimes fast enough. I can think about it, but I can't answer fast enough sometimes. Sometimes I just can't. Like she was just going up.
When you took the flag down, you took it down with the pole, right?
I unscrewed it. See that?
And then what did you do with the flag?
Waved like this.
Why did you do that?
Because I originally thought that the reason why so many bad things were happening to me in my apartment, physically, and where I was living, because I was the only one with an American flag up, and it was right at election time.
So were you trying to show your patriotism? Is that what you're saying?
I couldn't say nothing, and the only thing I could do was wave my flag, and I was just being a good neighbor, to swear, be honest, and seeing what was going on in front of my apartment. My apartment faces those 7 spots.
So how far was this lady away from you? If you're sitting there, how was it to the front row there, or was it farther than that?
When I came outside and started looking and she noticed me, she came across the road part way, and I was standing in my yard.
How far?
From me to you, you mean?
Was it that far, or was it farther? Was it the first row, the last row,
No.
the door, what?
My front door to those car spaces is about that door to me.
The door to the courtroom?
Yeah, to the
Okay.
car spaces from my front door.
That's how far she was away from you? When
Originally,
you picked up the flag?
oh yeah.
Okay.
No.
Now, I had her do a demonstration. I'm going to ask you to do the same thing, if you don't mind. The court can't pick up what you're saying, but if you could come out here and show us how you were walking with the flag.
All right.
Be careful. Okay, go ahead and have a seat. I got some more questions for you. When you were doing that just now, you were smiling. Were you doing that? Were you smiling that day too?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I probably, I really
But you
enjoy.
were going back and forth, not towards her.
No, there's a tree in my yard, and there's only a spot about this wide to walk through the bushes, and
She
there's a big
said
tree. I had to
that-
go.
She testified that she started yelling back at you because she said you yelled at her. Is that accurate? Did she yell at you?
Oh yeah,
Do you remember what she said?
I couldn't tell.
Did you get into a verbal argument with her at that point?
No, there was not enough to. I didn't understand what she was saying.
How long did the verbal yelling from her go on?
5 seconds, maybe 10 seconds.
And how long did it go on that you're walking with the flag?
5, 10 seconds.
So after that happens, what do?
Put my flag back in the pole and tighten it and go in the house.
Was she still out there at that point?
There was a guy that was walking over, and that's when I put the flag up. And she,
Somebody came and got her and took her
yeah,
back to her place?
yeah.
Was that before or after you put the flag back?
During. I can't
At the
specifically.
same time? Okay. Did you ever say anything threatening to her?
No.
Did you ever hold the flag in a way that would be a threat to her, as if you're going to hit her with it or anything like that?
Absolutely not.
Did you ever motion with your hands or any type of motion that would be a threat to her?
No, sir. And may I answer that my shoulder, I had a complete rebuild, and it was only about 5.5 July up before that. And it wasn't operational, you know, it's following this hand, you know. So my abilities with this right arm are just starting to get better.
So you understand that you do have mental health days where you're not as good, and that is bothersome to some people in some ways. So that's what her testimony was. You understand that, right? That some people are bothered by the fact that you talk yourself and things like that.
Do I understand that somebody would be bothered by that I was talking to myself?
Yeah. You understand that? Or do you?
I
you don't
understand
understand
what
it?
you were saying, yes.
Okay. But you never You never threatened or intended to hurt anybody.
or anybody else on that property the whole 8 years I lived there
Did
and
you have
paid
a
my rental
conversation-
time.
Did you have a conversation with Mr. Talbot about your rental situation?
No.
Did you get a
It was a
3-day
different-
notice from him?
Yes, personally.
After you got the 3-day notice, what did you do?
Went in the house and thought about it for a little bit, and then I called my dad.
Did you move?
Not immediately.
Okay, but you didn't get angry or upset or threaten anybody because of that, did you?
No. No, he was with one of Licking County's finest, and him, when he gave me that paper. And it said, if I do not comply, that I would be evicted, which was a different thing altogether from what I knew about.
I have no other questions.
Because
Mr. Savage.
So you heard a car door slamming, correct? That was what started this?
I heard doors slamming on a vehicle, yeah.
Okay. And you found that bothersome? Is that correct?
Bothersome? No, I wouldn't say that. It was something that got my attention.
It got your attention?
Outside my door. When you slam outside somebody's apartment, and my apartment is facing all my windows, the only windows that I have are facing the parking lot. When something, and there's always people there, when something slams louder, it makes a different noise. It rattles the dishes differently.
And that sound was happening
And so,
repeatedly on
and
that
so
day?
when this boom, 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 and I've got a cat and he jumps, okay, so, I look and see what's going on, and I have to step out because I got bushes and I got a tree and I'm looking.
And on that day, you wanted that repeated booming noise to stop, is that correct?
No,
You wanted it to continue?
I wanted to see what it was.
And so that was why you exited the building?
That's why I opened up my door and walked out of it and was looking to see what that was.
And you were mentioning the surgery that you had just months before, but you were in fact swinging the flag around as you demonstrated earlier, correct?
Yes,
And your injury didn't impede you in any way?
absolutely it does, and it still does, and it does it every night and every day, hourly, and it's getting stronger, but it's pretty painful in a number of things.
And you don't recall making any comments to other people on that day?
I talked to Officer Adams.
Do you remember making any comments to Carrie Nelson?
I don't know who that is.
Okay. And do you remember any of the things that you were saying to yourself, that you might have been saying to yourself around that same time period?
Yeah, I do specifically remember because I have new pistons and cylinders for my big V twin motor in the garage, along with my other motorcycle. And I was working on, and you could see by my clothing that day that I was working on it, and I always did. These guys have been in my apartment a number of times, and I was very tedious over those things.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Mr. Proctor.
No further questions.
You may step down.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I have nothing.
No further evidence.
We'll rest.
Okay. Mr. Savage.
Your Honor, we would argue that the defendant did in fact knowingly cause Carrie Nelson to believe that physical harm would be caused to her based on her testimony, the statements that bitch and you're going to get cooked, which she wrote in her report on that same day. The defendant has been professionally evaluated and found to be competent to stand trial and sane at the time of the events. And we would argue that though that we meet the element of knowingly, because we would in fact argue that his purpose was to get the victim to stop engaging in the behavior that was causing a disturbance, and that his behavior was intended to stop that, and that he knew it would probably cause the result of her apprehension of the physical harm. Nothing further.
Mr. Proctor?
Your Honor, in our society, we live with people with disabilities. There's no question that my client has a certain level of disability due to his brain injury. We have to be tolerant of those kind of people. Whether the conduct of Ms. Nelson or Mr. Talbot is discriminatory, it could be, it's not the issue here. Whether the conduct of my client was disorderly, again, it's not the issue here. The charge against him was whether it knowingly caused another to believe that the offender would cause physical harm. Now, that's a reasonable person standard, so her belief is a discriminatory belief because she doesn't like people with this type of mental health issues. That's not going to cut it. But the important part of that sentence in the complaint is knowingly. Clearly, my client did not intend to be threatening towards her. The testimony was clear and obvious that there were no threatening remarks made. He didn't approach her in a threatening manner. He didn't put the flag towards her. Maybe it was a sign of his mental health problems that he's walking around with the flag. But he explained it, and in his world, it works. But it's not intended as a threat. Again, the standard here is proof beyond a reasonable doubt. I don't know what this "you're going to be cooked" means. Nobody knows what, none of the witnesses that testified knows what half the things he says means. So you can't morph that into a threat just because it fits the case. There's no proof beyond a reasonable doubt of any kind of known behavior that caused he would cause physical harm. He just didn't. The problem's been solved. He's not there anymore. Whether that was right or wrong to move him out, that's not what we're judging here. The problem's solved anyway. So I'd ask the court to find Mr. Buffer not guilty.
Mr. Savage, anything else?
No, Your Honor.
Based on the evidence presented here today, I'll find Mr. Buffa not guilty. Of menacing. Appears to me, could have been disorderly conduct, I suppose, but I don't think the evidence presented here is proved beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Buffa knowingly caused the victim to believe he would cause her physical harm. Thank you.
Mark, if you'll come with me.